Car rental companies have actually been doing it for many years, but now the state of Massachusetts is looking into the possibility of charging motorists a fee for each and every mile they drive. The idea is actually quite simple. As cars become more fuel efficient, gas tax revenues start to decline, right? So the state would actually try to make up the difference by using GPS chips that would track the exact mileage that you travel. As you can imagine, the idea has its fair share of critics and supporters. And joining us now, Massachusetts State Senator Scott Brown, who is a Republican, and on the telephone, Jim Witte with the Oregon Department of Transportation. His state has already tried out a program like this one. But Senator Brown, let me begin with you. You don't like this idea. Why?
Well, it's a little bit Orwellian and Big Brotherish, but more importantly, we already have a sales tax, an excise tax, a gas tax, highest tolls around, surcharge, and insurance, obviously. Now we want to tax people for how many miles they actually drive. It's anti-business, it's anti-person, and at a time where Massachusetts is out of whack totally with their spending, we need to do some reforms before we find some more revenues.
But the GPS chip doesn't track anybody's movements. It only measures distance, thus mileage. So doesn't it make imminent sense? Why is that Orwellian?
Well, in Oregon, they have a very passive system, but in Massachusetts, traditionally, when you put people's foot in the door, it expands dramatically, and that's one of the problems we have in Massachusetts, is when we have a low corporate tax. That corporate tax is now one of the highest in the country. It's always getting your foot in the door that people are worried about. It's an invasion of their privacy, they feel, and plus they pay more than their fair share already
Again,
with their taxes.
It's only measuring mileage. But Jim Witte from Oregon, how did it work for you guys?
Well, it worked pretty well. The mileage was determined by this chip in the car, as you say, and we had some people that tested it, 300 people that tested it for us over a year period, and there was no issue with tracking because we didn't do that, and the system worked rather easily. It was inexpensive to operate, and it could be implemented. Of course, we just started testing it, and so there's a few things yet left to figure out.
All right. Senator Brown, back to you. You got a real problem in Massachusetts. Let's put up on the screen a graph we've created, and this sort of tracks the motor fuel tax revenues over the course of 20, 30 years. In 1988, $559 million. 10 years later, your revenues jumped up to $813 million. But over the last 10 years, it has gone down substantially to $673 million, probably because of fuel efficiency. With the cost of maintaining and building roads and bridges, therefore, won't this make up the difference? Doesn't it make sense financially?
No, it doesn't, because we have a Senate reform plan that the Senate President put forward that would save about $6.2 billion over the next 20 years. The problem with the administration is that they're trying to tax us back to the Stone Age, number one, but more importantly, the budgets that have been passed over the last 2 years have been $1.4, $1.5 billion out of whack. And what we're trying to do first is do some realistic reforms while we can, while the time period dictates it, and then ask the people for some assistance. Right now, we're just throwing good money after bad, and there's a huge outcry in Massachusetts.
Well, they don't seem to care very much in Oregon about it. Seem to work well. Jim Witte and Scott Brown.
We're not Oregon. We're not Oregon.
Okay. Well said. Thanks very much, Scott Brown, Jim Witte. Uma?
Well, there are big troubles.